What's up, everybody? Welcome. Today's live stream, get that focused there, is about the chord-scale relationship. Now, I've done a lot of these in the past, but they eventually get buried on my YouTube channel going back 3 years. But I always like to revisit these because it's one of the most important things for figuring out what keys that you're in. And a lot of people are always wondering, well, what key am I in? You know, how do I figure that out? What scale do I play over what chords? If I have a basic chord progression, what do I do? Now, this stuff is covered in my Beato book, all of this music theory, right at the beginning of the book. My book starts literally at the beginning. This is my book here. I've printed out a copy. It comes in PDF, and I have a discount code for the live stream, RB250, 25% off. This is how I make a living for my channel. That, t-shirt sales and mug sales, pretty much. But RB250, Aaron will be posting that in the chat here. But right here, this says scale degrees and basic scale degree names and basic chord progressions. That's on page 28 in my book. But my book actually just starts out with, you know, it's got the table of contents here, and it gets right into what is an interval. You read that the book is handwritten, Michael. Well, the book is not handwritten. That was about 2 years ago. It's 461 pages. It's typed. What I have here, I have a small whiteboard because my new whiteboard has not arrived yet. And I have the key of C major. You see mode names here. You see some Roman numerals. And then you see a bunch of chords. Well, what do those mean? Okay, so every key has 7 chords that belong to it. Okay, they all have their own names. For example, the one chord is always called the tonic. You've heard these terms, maybe. Tonic, subdominant, dominant. Okay, thank you, Alessio. Appreciate that. But each scale degree does have a name. I go through this in my book. You have the tonic. You have the tonic. Supertonic goes with a 2 chord. The mediant goes with a 3 chord. Subdominant, dominant, submediant, and then leading tone. Leading tone is a half step below the tonic. Okay? Well, the Roman numerals, the capital Roman numerals mean that the chords are major, and lowercase Roman numerals, this is a lowercase 2, a lowercase 3, lowercase 6, and then you have that 7 with a circle. Lowercase Roman numerals mean that those are minor chords, are built on those particular scale degrees. Thank you, Mobius. Appreciate that. 1, 4, and 5, you have major chords. So if you look here in the key of C, you have C major, F major, G major, right? So 1, 4, 5, 1. Thank you, flashy thing me. I'm referring to people in Super Chat right here, so I'm thanking them when they do that. Okay, the 2, 3, and 6 chord in the key of C are all minor. So 2 chord would be D minor, the 3 chord is E minor, and the 6 chord is A minor. Okay, so, and the 7 chord is diminished. Okay, so a B diminished, or it could be half diminished if it's a 7th chord. Thank you, Mark. But there's your diminished triad there. Okay, so if you were to play the chords in the key of C, okay, now if I were to play the arpeggios, that's the 1 chord, C major, D minor, E minor is a 3 chord, F major is a 4 chord, G major is a 5 chord, A minor is a 6 chord, B diminished is a 7 chord, and C major. Gets high up there without looking. So with each of these scale degrees, we have a mode that goes with each one. Ionian always goes with the tonic chord, with the 1 chord. Dorian goes with a 2 chord, Phrygian with a 3, Lydian with a 4, Mixed Lydian with a 5, Aeolian with a 6, Locrian with the 7. So if I'm in the key of C, and I'm playing a chord progression C, F, G, I'm really playing C major over the C chord. Over the F chord, I'm playing F Lydian. It's all the notes of C major. Over the G chord, I'm playing G mixed Lydian. And then over the tonic chord again. Okay, so that's how these chord scales work. All right? So if I have a, say I have a chord progression like this, I got a couple whiteboards here. Let's see if I can do this without knocking anything over, like my guitar. There we go. Okay, so right here I have a couple chord progressions. C, F, G, A minor. Okay, so this is how you analyze them. You use Roman numerals. This is the 1 chord. This is the 4 chord. This is the 5 chord. This is the 6 chord. Now, I know that because of these 2 chords here, the 4 and 5. Anytime you have 2 major chords that are a whole step apart, meaning 2 frets apart if you're talking about the guitar, thank you, Dan, you know what key you're in, because the 4 and 5 chords, any 2 major chords that are a whole step apart can only come from one key. F and G are only in the key of C major, okay? One major key, that is. If I take this progression down here, this is a 4, 1, 6, 5 progression, okay? That's how you analyze that. That's like 90% of your songs on the radio now are 4, 1, 6, 5, or some combination of those chords, right? So you hear be like, 4, 1, 6, 5. Like, I'm learning to fly. I ain't got wings. Most big songs are these chord progressions. Whether it's, Tom Petty's songs, it doesn't really matter. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me. So Let It Be, those same 4 chords. It goes 1 to 5 to 6 to 4. Okay, those are how those chord progressions work. If you are soloing over that, you would theoretically be soloing over each individual chord, but people don't usually do that. What you need to do is you need to actually know what notes are in the individual chords, so you're spelling those out. Where modes come in handy is when you're changing keys, because then you have to know where you're going. If I had a chord out of key here, let's say I had a A major here. Well, this gets really kind of tricky, because A major is not in the key of C. We're looking at that. You'd say, okay, where is this chord coming from? Then you get this thing where it's like, well, those 2 chords are a whole step apart. Maybe that's the 4 chord in the key of D, and that's the 5 chord. Well, typically when you have one chord out of the blue that is from another key, it's usually called a secondary dominant. Now we'll talk about that. That's in my book. That's a more sophisticated concept. But that is the 5/7 of 2. And typically secondary dominance, that means it's the 5 chord of the 2 chord. So you'd call this a 5 of 2. Okay? And that would require a different scale. Thank you, Pooper. Appreciate that. This is where knowing where your arpeggios are and things like that are very handy. If I'm soloing over this progression, if I'm soloing over F, right? C, A, G. Typically, though, when you have a secondary dominant, it typically would resolve to its primary chord, okay? So this is going to be D minor. You will see these chord progressions a lot. D minor. So this would be the 2 chord. So the secondary dominant resolves to its dominant. So you hear chord progressions like that all the time. You'd hear like, would be like this. Typically, though, that chord progression, the 6, 5, 5 of 2 will actually come in a chord progression like this. 1, 6, 2, 5 is probably the most common chord progression where you have a chord that's borrowed from another key. Okay, so you've got, would be C, and then A major, and then D minor, and then G major. Okay, this is a very common 1, 5 of 2 to 2 to 5. This is a very common chord progression that you've heard a million times. Pious, thank you very much, Pious Devil. Okay, but that one chord is not from that key. So that's where you need to know about these secondary dominants and about different modes, okay? These chords are from the key of C. This chord is from the key of D minor. It's the 5 chord in D minor. So it has a note C sharp in that A major chord, okay? So this is how you get to be able to play over chord progressions and make it sound like you're playing over the chords. Now, if you have chords that are static, let's say you're just jamming over a couple chords. You're playing in your Grateful Dead cover band or your Fish cover band, and you're kind of just playing over maybe 2 chords, or maybe just you're jamming over 1 chord and you're just got an A minor chord, let's say. Okay, so that chord, you're like, well, what do I play over just that straight A minor chord? Well, you have a bunch of different things. A minor, right? Well, A minor has only the notes A, C, and E in it. A lot of scales, actually, Jay Monty, thank you so much. A lot of scales have those 3 notes in them. The key of C does, okay, has A minor. The key of F has A minor in it, okay? Anybody else know what other key has A minor in it? So it's the 6 chord of C, it's the 3 chord of F, and it's the 2 chord of G, okay? So A minor, it's the 6 chord in the key of F, in the key of C, it's the 3 chord in the key of F, and it's the 2 chord in the key of G. Why is that important? Well, each of those, very good. Each of these you have a different scale. So the 6th chord requires the Aeolian scale, right? Because that goes with the 6th mode. This is the Phrygian scale, and this is the Dorian scale. Now, you're like, well, when am I going to ever use these scales? Well, in rock, you use them all the time. Guys like Peter Frampton, John Mayer, people like that, they know how to use things like the Dorian scale. Let's say I have an A minor chord here, right? And that's A Dorian. Beautiful sound. The song So What uses the Dorian mode. If I were to play Aeolian, it's a different sound. It has a totally different flavor. Okay, this would be Aeolian, Aeolian. Has that note. Dorian has that note. If I actually added that note into this chord, listen. A Phrygian has a totally different sound. Listen to this. This is A Phrygian. Be like this. But I'd probably play more of a voicing like this over it. That's a beautiful sound. So that A minor chord can really produce three different things. There's actually other chords that you can play over A minor. You can play A melodic minor as well. Okay, that has A, C, and E in it too. Melodic minor, I'll call it Mel-min. That's my little abbreviation for melodic minor. That has a different sound to it. Let me play A minor with that melodic minor. Cleaner chord there. Beautiful sound, right? Yeah, Beato book discount 25% off anything in my store. RB250. Beautiful, right? Now I'm playing harmonic minor. Different sound. Also has those notes A, C, and E in it. This is more your Spanish sound or your heavy metal sound. Harmonic minor, okay? That's going to sound more like this. Here's Dorian. Here's Aeolian. Here's Phrygian. Here's melodic minor. And then harmonic minor. Okay, so all those, every scale I played A Aeolian, A Phrygian, A Dorian, A melodic minor, and A harmonic minor. All of those chords have the notes A, C, and E. All of those modes have the notes A, C, and E in it. And that's why these modal scales are important. And being able to identify what key you're in is really important. And knowing this Roman numeral analysis and what chords are in every key will depend on one other thing that you need to know and memorize, which is the circle of fifths. If you don't know what notes are in every key, then you can't figure out what chords are from every key, because you have to know how many sharps and flats there are. Okay? And the circle of fifths is literally a circle. Well, I'm going to make a circle of fifths here. Okay, here's a circle. A circle of fifths works like a clock. Okay, so I'm going to go here, 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 here. Then fill in my 12 little notches. Okay. Usually start with the key of C up here. Let me move this up just a little bit. There we go. C, G, D, A, E. They're all moved by fifths. B, F sharp, G flat, D flat, E flat. I'm sorry, D flat. Sorry, A flat, E flat, B flat, F, and C. C has 0 sharps and flats. G major has 1 sharp. D major has 2 sharps. A major has 3 sharps. E major has 4 sharps, 5 sharps. B major 6 sharps. For F sharp major, 6 flats. That's where you turn it around. It's a tritone away, an augmented fourth away. D flat has 5 flats. A flat has 4 flats. E flat has 3 flats. B flat has 2 flats. F has 1 flat. Okay, so if you look at a key signature, you can figure out, if you have this chart memorized, how many sharps or flats there are in each key, and you know the order of sharps and flats, you can understand what chords are in every key. Okay, so there's one other thing you have to memorize. You have to be able to recite C, G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, or G flat, G flat, D flat, E flat, A flat, B flat, F, C. There's a couple little things in here, little tricks. You have B, E, A, D, like bead, right there. You here have B, E, A, D going that way too. So you have 2 beads in there, but one has flats, one has just naturals. Well, there are an order of sharps and an order of flats. And once you have those memorized, they never change. Okay? The order of sharps is this. F sharp. Or it works the same way. It always works in fifths. F sharp, C sharp. If I look here, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, B sharp. Okay, those are your 7 sharps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we have an order of flats, which is just the opposite. If you start at this end and you reverse it, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, there's your bead. Okay, B, E, A, D, then G flat, C flat, F flat. Okay? So you just have to memorize. If you memorize these, let me turn it so you can see them both here. Hold on. There you go. If you memorize the order of sharps and order of flats, like I said, if you memorize the order of sharps, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, E sharp, B sharp, and then you reverse it, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, G flat, C flat, F flat, it's the same, okay? So how does this work then? 1 sharp, you take the first sharp. If it's in the key of A major, it has 3 sharps. F sharp, C sharp, G sharp. If it's the key of E flat major, you have 3 flats. B flat, E flat, A flat. Key of F has 1 flat, which is B flat. Okay? So if you know this circle of fifths, and you know that 1, 4, and 5 are major, 2, 3, and 6 are minor, and 7 is diminished, then you can plug those chords in any particular key. Okay? So if I were to have if I were to look at a progression like, let's say I do this. This is all in my book right in the very beginning. My book is a reference book. Like I said, it only comes in PDF, but it has everything that you need in it. And it has the circle of fifths, and it talks about how chords are built, building diatonic chords, diatonic triads. But it has all this stuff in it here, which shows you how major keys work, how minor keys work. There's multiple minor keys, but let's say that we have let's say we're trying to figure out a G major scale. Okay, you write the letter names G to G, A, B, C, D, E, F, And if you know your order of sharps and flats, you'll know that G major has one sharp, and it's F sharp, okay? So that's a G major scale. So then what do you do with that? Well, you just plug in the Roman numerals. 1, 2 is minor, 3 is minor, 4 is major, 5 is major, 6 is minor, and 7 is diminished. Okay, then I just plug them in here. Minor, minor, major, major, minor, minor. So in the key of G, you have G major, A minor, B minor, C major, D major, E minor, F sharp diminished. Okay? That is the key of G major. If I were to do the key of, let's say, B flat major, okay, that has 2 flats. I know that because I memorized it 40 years ago. B flat, I'm just going to write the letter names. C, D, E, F, G, A. Well, B flat major has 2 flats. It has the first 2 flats, which are B flat and E flat. Boom, there's your B flat major scale there, okay? I plug in the Roman numerals. 1, 2, they're always the same. They always move in the same order. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, diminished. Then I put in C minor, D minor, E major, F major, G minor, A diminished. There you go. Those are all the chords in the key of, thank you, Poop Popper again. These are all the chords in the key of B flat major, right? B flat major. And all I've done is I've memorized these orders of sharp and flats, and I've memorized the circle of fifths, okay? I've memorized these. So that's about, there's about 4 things, probably 5 things you need to memorize. Remember the modes. The 1 chord is always Ionian, then Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixed Lydian, Aeolian, Locrian. Modes work right along with the scale degrees. So in this case, it would be B Ionian, C Dorian, D Phrygian, E flat Lydian, F Mixolydian, G Aeolian, and A Locrian. Okay? So that is how chord scales work. The chord scale relationship work. Okay? This is in the order that you want to memorize these things, it really doesn't matter. You probably have to memorize the circle of fifths first. Because once you do that, everything springs forward for that. Once you memorize the circle of fifths and you know what sharps and flats are in each key, then you can figure out any major scale or any minor scale. And then you plug in that order of chords. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Okay, there's another way that I like to do it. 1, 4, and 5, like in a blues, is major in a major key. Okay, so this is major keys. Major keys. 2, 3, and 6 are minor, and your 7 chord is diminished. I told you guys last live stream that the first thing I learned in my lesson from Tom Rizzo was the 5 positions of the major scale, which are based off the major pentatonic scale. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. The second thing he taught me were the chords in major keys. Thank you, Official Steve. Appreciate that. You're awesome. So this is incredibly important, just this thing. Remember, 1, 4, and 5 is major. Think of blues. 2, 3, and 6 is minor. And 7 is diminished. That is a very basic thing to know. We're not even talking about 7th chords yet. When you get into 7th chords, you just have to alter them a little bit. 7th chords are more for things like jazz or Steely Dan or whatever. 7th chords in a major key, your 1 is a major 7, 1 and 4 are major 7, 1 and 4, and I just write major 7, M-A-J 7. Okay, so these are major 7 chords, major 7. 2, 3, and 6 are minor 7 chords, minor 7. Tom taught me these 2 things back to back, and your 5 chord is dominant 7, just a straight 7. I call it dominant 7. And your 7 chord is called minor 7 flat 5. Some people call it half diminished, like this, a diminished with a circle through it. I just call it a minor 7 flat 5. That's your 7 chord, okay? So that's your other category, minor 7 flat 5. It's not that complex. This is when you're dealing with jazz chord progressions, but they work in the same way. Jazz and rock, it doesn't matter. Sometimes you'll be in a rock song and you'll borrow, you'll have a, you're going to be mixing 7th chords with, you'll mix 7th chords with straight triads, right? If I do, there's a G7. I did C major triad, F major triad, then G7, then back to C major. Okay? So I mixed in one 7th chord in there. I could have mixed C major, D minor 7, G7, back to C major. Okay? And that would take different C major. How did I screw that up? Let me do it again. The 7 chord is not diminished 7th. It's minor 7 flat 5. The triad is a diminished triad. That sounded cool, right? That you hear those 1, 2, minor 7, dominant 7. So that is very calypso. I agree. Phil, what's up? What did you miss, Phil? You missed the first chapter of the Beato book, basically. Well, first 20 pages, maybe 15 pages. So this is your basic music theory that everyone should know. This is the building blocks of all music theory. That and intervals. But I think this is more important than intervals. Intervals come in with things like ear training and deeper understanding of how to build chords. This is really to me, triads and 7th chords and key centers are the nuts and bolts of everything. This is stuff that everyone should know from memory, and it's very basic stuff. It seems like a lot, but once you go over it a few times, I mean, I taught my son Dylan this stuff when he was 4. I taught him the names of all the major, minor, diminished, and augmented chords. I told him what notes were in there. I said, G minor's G, B flat, D. Got it? Yeah, I got it. I mean, that was it. And he was 4 years old, whatever, So you guys can do that. Hold on, wait. What is this? Who is this guy here? Hold on, oh, look at that, Aaron. I think I beat you to it. Okay, so that's it for today. That I wanted to kind of go over these things. This is, once again, basic knowledge that I think everyone should know. And you don't have to be a composer to know this. Every country writer in Nashville knows that this is the Nashville numbering system. That's what it is, period. This. They just use the numbers. Instead of Roman numerals, they call it 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, whatever. They call the chords that. That is the Nashville numbering system. People learn that to learn how to play in different keys and how to modulate things like that. Okay, so that's it for today. Check out my video that I just put out, my greatest keyboard intros. There's a discount code for anything in my store. That's how I support myself on the channel. It's RB250, 25% off anything in my store. You can support it that way, or if you have all the mugs in my store, the t-shirts, or the Beato book, you can always become a member of the Beato Club. If you're a member of the Beato Club too, then you guys are awesome. Appreciate it. All right, well, have a great day, everyone, and memorize that circle of fifths. Bye.